Operator! Fire! Send the trucks! There's a fire raging! This is Blueprint Land Creation with your prophetic professor and lecturer, Winfred B. Manson. And today I'll be talking about fires and why we have fires. As I'm walking in the university yard, giving you a little view of our various species of trees that we have found growing here. And you got this particular species of trees, we call it cynical trees. They grow to be huge trees, right? Now, do another research as we're walking. All these are our different species that are found. See that nice black, that's a nice black there, bumblebee there, you can see it. Big and black, eh? Big and black, let me see if I can get closer up on it. Big black bumblebee. Now they said that was bumblebee don't have no honey in there. But he's there taking nectar off the flower and so on. But anyway, back to this. Okay, so now as we can see here, we see what? Casuarina trees. Like I said, casuarina trees come from Australia, but they call it horsetail, ironwood, different species of trees. But I get to find out by doing the research. In Australia, you got more than one different kind of ironwood tree, and not necessarily casuarina trees is a part of it because it's really hard. It's called widowmaker because if one of the limb fall on your head, it crushes your skull. But here it is that we have it here. If you look at the roots of the trees, like I said, casuarina trees do not have normally a deep roots. But normally what they do, the purpose of them, what is right now, you see what that is? What this root is doing? This root has a collection of what? Rocks and everything. So it grows on the soil, on the sand, on the beach, whatever. And the builders builds the rocks and everything in it. So now you can see, then what happened is this portion here, it's called what? This is it's a termite mound. What the termite mound is for? This is now to eat out the wood of the tree and break it down and to make it into soil and the fertilizer. All the twigs and the leaves of the casuarina needles, as people say that nothing grows around the needles, and that again is not true. The reason is this holds down a lot of moisture. When the sun is hot, it becomes extremely hot, and then once it is cold, once it is cold, it also holds moisture. In dry nights, it always has water. You can always find water, so the builders need it. Like I said, there are 5 things for building of land, or even for basically for life, but for land, 5 things you need. 5 things. 1, you need water, right? Next, water. You need material, plants, different things. You need fire. Fire comes from the heat of the sun or from lava fire or whatever fire. You need fire, right? Next one, you need wind. Cool. You got wind comes in from the sky, or you got wind and coldness. All is wind, right? Wind got coldness, ice, with all that. And then the next one, and the 5th one, you need the builders. Now you always hear me keep saying the builders. You keep saying, he keep telling me the builders. I hear early podcast, everything he talk about the builders, but he never tell me who the builders are. I cannot give you everything for free, right? Now when you come and you join and you come and you want to be part of this program that I will be teaching you, you'll be able to start anywhere. Your geologists, your professors, they ain't gonna want you to learn this, and many times they will discard this information because they didn't come up with it, right? But no, I will show you who the builders are and break it down to you and give you step-by-step instructions. And when you go back, you wouldn't need them anymore. But you have a better understanding of marine science, right? So again, as we look here, you can see here we got the various tree, the root of the tree, right? This is a casuarina root. They came here, the tractor came here, and they pushed us down, right? So now you can see the various trees, but everything can be broken down. You can see the cows in the trees there. As the house, this roughness, this dryness in it, and every piece would be broken off and broken down. Like I said again, by me saying this, chaos in the trees also has starts its own fire. Chaos in the trees also starts its own fire because it has resins. It's a family to the Caribbean pine trees. It's a family to all of the trees in the United States, North America, and all around over the world. The same process, the same principles. Now, different trees got mainly, like I come back to Australia now, you hear me talking about a lot more about Australia right now because Australia is having fire in December months, in the winter months. And portion of the United States and Canada is still under fire. Snow don't stop fire. Water don't even stop fire, right? Fire still, once fire comes and fire need to burn out, But all in the process of what? It is what? Building of land. That's what's the main process. And you need water. Water is the principles, right? Once you have water now, something else I must say. When we hear thunder, you know thunder in the Bible, when you talk about thunder, they normally say God is speaking when you hear thunder. And on the island, when I first came there on Andros, yeah, and Nassau is slightly different, but when you in Andros, it feels like the clouds right, you're an inch from more under the clouds. When them thunder roll and click off. I said thunder hit this morning. Then it, the whole house and land shake. Woo! So I said, wow. Now, everything is for purpose, right? The thunder is for purpose, right? Now, when the thunder shakes, like I said, come back to my recipe. You mean I talk about climate change. Climate change is I call it as a bacon recipe. The thunder reminds me of something that, when the thunder shake, it's like when you can put your ingredients in your pan, right? And you shake it to make sure it get nice and firm in the pan. And then of course you need it to be baked. That's one of the principles, right? But come and find out what else is basically in the climate change recipe. There's so many things, right? And since I'm on this purpose of it, when we look at even all of the planets, that's the same thing. All of the planets it is a baking process. Once you do a baking, it's a recipe. It's like when you put in your bread or your cake in the oven, right? You have different temperatures. Some are extremely just gases. They just fire, just rumbling. Then some is rocks, and some is rocks and mountains and so forth. And then some is only ice and all of that. All that is a process of baking. Once you know the principles of baking, you understand it now, how it is done. Now that's the portion, how it is done. That's the part they cannot explain, how it is done. Like I said, yes, that's the rough estimate what I give you, right? Of the baking principles. As a baker know the ingredients that he or she puts into their ingredients to make the cake, and the different types of cake. Then the different types of bread. And I call global warming. That's the building of making of bread. Right? And then when you go back to the Bible, you got different things. God loved bread. God loved cooking. God loved to cook. He got everything is bread. When you go back to Israel, everything he gave Moses the instructions to how to make unleavened bread. Right? They also made cakes. Right? The different recipes. But similar, some of the same principles, right? Like let me say for example, in cakes, you got cake normally you need one of the ingredients you need cake, you need baking powder. Gets your cake lighter, fluffier, and different things. You save your flour and so on, right? The same thing is in land and building of land. There's various different segments. There's different builders. See, we got that bird right there. That's called a. See, sometimes it slipped me that fast. Sometimes because I'm dealing with that is called a thick-billed vireo. He got a little yellow spot right on the side of his beak. Thick-billed vireo. Like I said, sometimes dealing with land and so forth, you see a lot of different things around. So for those who are interested in birding, the university is a good place to come and also do exploring of birds and so forth. We also do bird watching it too. So again, that's a thick-billed vireo. That's like how we got the northern mockingbird. He normally teeth his sound of him because when they start getting angry, they sound just like how the mockingbird go down. That yeah, that also there now. So anyway, so back to what I was saying. So now you got the cast-winning needles. It's broken down, and as you see, as it's being broken down, like I said, people said no weeds or nothing grows on it. But no, in the process of time, after with sun, water, and everything broken down, what happened is, you see what? Grass start coming, weeds start coming up, because everything breaking down, and they're living off that and the fertilizer, and you got this ramon tree, and then you got this other species of plant here, right? So all them plays a very important part, and they start breaking down. Then you got here, you got poison wood. We got cast in the trees there, ironwood, and you see they broken down from the heat of the sun and wear and tear, and the skin come off them, the bark come off them, the outer layer comes off them, and you see the inside. And then termites will come and break that down, even from the heat and the sun. Will continue to consume that, break that down until that becomes topsoil, broken down into fine matter. Now, this particular species of wine here, this is called a love wine. We call this in the Bible, we call it love wine. This is when you take this and you put this in cloth and you beat this and you boil this release a deep, thick liquid when it bleeds. And then what they normally do, they normally put sweet milk in that, and they put some other bushes, we call it a 21 gun salute. And when you get a 21 gun salute, it's a male enhancement. And so it makes, like they said, your bark become more stronger, right? If you was a bull or horse, you can make plenty little offsprings. So this is what this is for, right? That's one of the 21 gun salute. So again, like I said, so land and cast winning trees you need, all these are building of land. Like I said, the root would be broken down, and everything. So now as I go along, different places you got, I think this plant is a stink, we call this a stink weed plant, a little piece on that. That's also a medicine plant. Now, as we go through, you see you can see different weeds and so forth, plants. I just want to go back here, because I want to show you something. Hopefully, I'll do much more run of this as I'm walking, so you can see. Now, you see we have water. Last night, this in December, we had a rain came through earlier, and then you see water. Now, this is another element. It needs water. Land needs water. Land needs water to be built. Just like on a construction site, like I said again, it needs water. So you can see various different trees here, and this is a Caribbean pine trees and the cones on it. And if you look at both of them, it looks similar how the roughness of the bark look. If you look at the roughness of the bark of the tree. Let me see if I can pull this back a bit more. Hope it don't go off. Yeah. So this is my hand. I just lining my phone, my phone, that I don't want to go off. So again, but you can see it here now. As I go a little bit closer or further back, I see if I get it to go back. If it's not locked into place. Now once it's locked into place, it's not gonna adjust. Okay, that there. So now, okay. So when we go, this is a one-man show, this is a one-man band, right? I don't know, all my podcasts that I do this live. I don't do this with no script. I used to do it with script, but then when you do the script at times, when you learn your subject, you need no more scripts, right? I want to show you something. As we look at the rock, at the building of the rock, you can see that in here, you can see that we have little layers. When I first do my research, I just call it ribs. Right? I call it ribs because it look like ribs. Ribs. But now there's different layers and so forth. And you can look at it as the needs of the tree. Now this tree here that is here, this plays a very important part in the ecosystem here in the Bahamas. This plays a very important part. One of these days I will talk a little bit more on this species of tree here. We call it a garland berry tree. Like the bird that we are, a golden bird, the black and white bird, but that plays a very important part in the ecosystem. But anyway, that's for another time, for another day. I can't give you all the information one time, because if I give you all the information one time, you say, what do I need to buy a course for? What do I need to buy a course for? I learn everything. No, there are many things you haven't learned. And so, but once you come and you get the course, and you get and you sign up for the course. Like I said, ongoing course. You write the email, you get the information. My email is blueprintlandcreation@gmail.com. Once you write that, all right, and then the next one I got for my next podcast. I normally use that too for my next podcast, Blueprint Land Creation Archives. I normally use that too. That's called Blueprint Land Creation 2, like number 2 @gmail.com. That's my another site. But anyway, here let's go back to here. So as you can see, all of the leaves and everything will drop down, as you can see, that on top of the hill. And what happened is, you see the needles from the Caribbean pine trees and the Casuarina trees, all will drop down, all will drop in. You see there's water here, and what the water will do, everything will drop down, and then of the high heat of the sun will break everything down, break it down, like you put it into a mulch, break it down, and once it's broken down, it becomes fertilizer and for trees, various different trees. Now this species of tree here, this particular species of tree here, we call this species of trees, like in the Haitian call this the obey bush, because that's good for many different names. But that's a good bitter bush. I remember there's a young man years ago. My mother used to tell me, we call it in the Bahamas, we call it pond bush, because they normally go by the water is. And the young man, he said my mother wanted some, and he saw me going for some, and he always say, whatever my mother take, he can take, because if my mother knows medicine, he can take it. So he was working at the hotel. So I told him, and so I said, you don't just boil it. You put it in your water, clean it off, boil it, and you drink it. And so he did that, boy, and he's working in the hotel in that evening. For 4 o'clock, all of a sudden, round about 2:30, he heard the engine room, his engine room will roll lower. He said, what? He said, no. He called and said, look here, I'm not going to be able to make it to work today. But anyway, the rest of the story is, he said, look here, I never drinking that no more. That thing clean him right out. So that's a good cleaning, but it do a lot of healing. It's good for mental fatigue. Now again, do not take this, but I want you to go to your doctors. You get their advice, but I am only saying here on the island, this we take, right? So and again, like I said again, you can see different layers of the rocks. You see different layers. You see the rock, it's got little fine little pebble stones them there. It's broken down. Each one is on the inside. Then you got from the bottom, you see there, you got the various different ridges, and you see the lines in there, and the rings. The people call it rings, and they call it different. Like I said, yes, it's different periods, different time periods and so forth. But then how it is done, it's a building process. Like I always say again, rocks do not grow. Now look at this Casuarina tree. Let me look at the next thing. Fire. See this here? See the roots of that in the land? It's fire, right? So fire would burn that out, right? Now when fire burns that out, what it does? Now you see them grooves within it, in the bark. They will swell open, and then the resin will drain down at the base. This is the same thing that's happening in the United States with the Caribbean pine trees, or the pine trees in general, or other trees that have resin in it. It will be broken down, and once it's broken down, it will now be used to go into the rocks. And yes, and the rocks will partially be to build limestone. This because we got limestone. These rocks are called limestone rocks. Same process. Like, subscribe, and share for part 2 coming up next.